Welcome into the American Huddle. Great to be back here in the studio alongside Andy Gresh. I'm Haley Outen. Andy, first off, I want to thank you for holding down the fort last week while I was in Florida.
All right, well, you make it sound like I was going to burn the place down, and you did join via Skype, sitting out in the middle of the sunshine somewhere in Central Florida. So, I mean, we survived.
I had to keep you in check, but I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, you're nice and tan, coming back
you.
after, what, a week and a half? And did you go to Disney World?
I didn't. Strictly business. 2 soccer championships, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to talk about some of the results from this past weekend.
We have a lot to get to.
Let's get right to it. This past weekend produced a 3-way tie for first place in the West Division, while UCF still controls its own destiny in the East, and we're going to get to some of those scenarios in a few minutes. But first, let's take a look back to some of the key games from Week 11, starting off with UCF. It's now been 22 straight for the Knights after defeating Navy. UCF quarterback Mackenzie Milton had a very accurate day, completing 17 of 21 passes for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Andy, how important was it to see Milton play 4 quarters and put together a solid outing?
I think it's 2 things. Number one, from the health standpoint, huge. You know he's okay. He played 4 quarters against a team that just wouldn't die in Navy. And then there's the second part of it, Haley, which is they ran the ball a ton. In fact, 105 running plays between the 2 teams in this one. If the Knights are going to run the ball this way, then they can keep Milton under 25 throws, which allows him to really be a factor in the run game, that and health. So I think it was a big step forward for the Knights in their quest to remain undefeated and maybe crash the party when it comes to the Final Four. It's all still in front of them, but they need Mackenzie Milton to be big the next couple of weeks.
It's going to be an exciting week in Orlando. Of course, College Game Day headed to the UCF campus this week as they prepare to face Cincinnati in primetime Saturday night, a game that could answer a lot of questions when it comes to the conference championship. Speaking of the Bearcats, they put themselves in a perfect position heading into Saturday's game, defeating USF in Nippert. Running back Michael Warren II carried a bulk of the workload on offense, accounting for 4 total touchdowns. Why has Warren been able to have this breakout year?
Well, it's really a breakout quarter relative to this game. All 3 touchdowns coming in the 3rd quarter for him. But I think that once you get a quarterback like they have now in Desmond Ridder, it allows the running game to kind of settle into place because you know the expectations you're going to put on the guy at that position. It isn't we're going to try this and try that. It's here's what he's good at. Let's not overload the freshman, and how can the other guys help out? So I think Ridder settling in, it's not a detriment or a ding on him per se. It's just recognizing that you have a young quarterback, and if you can pound it the way Cincinnati can at times, you might as well do so.
Going to need to be a team effort this week at UCF, but another team still alive in the East is Temple after winning a shootout in Houston on Saturday. Andy, get this. Raquel Armstead, a conference record 6 rushing touchdowns. How big of a threat is this Temple team late in the season?
Well, you know, the beginning of the year it was, what do we know about them? Well, what we've learned about them is that they're tough. They can go on the road. They can win anywhere. Houston's playing pinball scores for crying out loud. De'Aaron King putting up a bunch of touchdowns once again. But whether it's 17-10 or 59-49, Temple has the ability to win games in many different ways.
The Owls will need some help, but they are still in the mix for a conference title. A team that controls their own destiny at this point out of the West is SMU, who took care of business at UConn on Saturday. It was the highest scoring regular season game in the Americans' history. How is this SMU team different than the one that we saw start off the season?
Well, I mean, I think you nailed it there, Haley. They can score points, and now they've settled in with Ben Hicks at quarterback, and they can put points on the board. However, with SMU, we see them getting better. We see them finding ways, and I think it took a month under Sonny Dykes, maybe not so much for the kids to settle into him, but for him to figure out what he's got with these kids and then sort of changing his offense as they go. I think he's done a really good job down there. And it's amazing to think, like what you just said, SMU controls their own fate. I never would have predicted that at the beginning of the year, let alone said that even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, after a tough start to the season, the Mustangs are now just one game shy of bowl eligibility, too, under first-year head coach Sonny Dykes. Another team that has bowl eligibility at its fingertips is Tulane. The Green Wave have won 3 straight after taking down ECU this past weekend. The offense is looking better. However, the defense set an NCAA record with 20 pass breakups. How impressive is that statistic?
So there's a part of me that says it's an impressive stat because it's a bunch of guys getting hands on footballs, or is it a detriment to Holt Nailers, the quarterback, who really at times just couldn't place the football where he wanted to? And the one thing about Tulane that I've screamed about, like for years now, is get something out of the passing attack. And I know it only came on a couple of plays. However, the quarterback for Tulane, Justin McMillan, 372 yards and 3 touchdowns. If Tulane gets that with the way they run the ball, look out. Their offense can be explosive against anybody in the country.
Another team that puts together an explosive offense is Memphis, and the Tigers seem to be back on track after winning the last 2 games. How much does Memphis's success rely on the play of running back Darrell Henderson, who had a couple of touchdowns this past weekend?
You know, it's funny. It's like you read my mind. That's exactly what I wrote down on my card, that, you know, right now you just turn around and hand it to Darrell Henderson and then let Brady White play off of that. Memphis has done a great job of establishing the run all year long, and when you do that, you take the air out of the ball, you take the fight out of defenses. You know, Memphis, they may not be in the conference championship game, but they ain't going down without a fight. They're going to make it difficult on people here in the month of November.
Even with 3 conference losses, the Tigers are still in this thing. They're going to need some help, though. So let's break down a few of those scenarios when it comes to the conference championship.
Do you got your abacus and your board all out and ready to go here?
You're going to need to get out your pens and papers because this thing, it could get pretty messy. But UCF, obviously in control of the East Division. It could get very interesting, though. If Cincinnati beats UCF on Saturday night, they will then control their own destiny. However, should Cincinnati beat UCF on Saturday and then lose the following week to ECU, what do we have then? We have a 3-way tie in the East Division.
Which is the one division that you think you would be pretty smooth in terms of smooth sailing for UCF and winning that side of the American. Yet Cincinnati, look, they can beat UCF. Let's be honest now. They've had a great year. The quarterback has played okay. Luke Fickell's got something working with that team. It's amazing how he's turned them around in 2 years. So I don't think anything is sort of rubber stamped for UCF over the next couple of weeks.
And should we have a 3-way tie in the East Division, it will then come down to college football playoff rankings to break that tie, because each team would have a win when it comes to the head-to-head over one another. So it could get pretty tricky, but it could also be very simple. Should UCF win, they will not only lock in that East Division title, but they will also host the American Championship game.
Which means you're going back to Orlando.
Which means I'm headed back to Orlando, should that happen. There's definitely worse places to have to go. So I'm not, I wouldn't be upset. Bunch of great schools, locations in the American, though. So we're going to keep this open, this discussion open, at least for another week or so. So for the West Division, this could be quite simple, actually, if SMU just wins the next 2 games.
There we go. That would be easy.
That would be easy.
However, it's the American West, and we know there's always something going on that side of the conference.
That it is. And, you know, Thursday and Friday have serious implications and will help answer maybe some of these questions. So Thursday night, Tulane at Houston. Friday night, Memphis at SMU. So basically, all 4 of these teams are the ones that are still in the mix for this conference championship. So should Memphis win and should Houston win, then it will all boil down to the final week of the regular season when those 2 teams meet.
Which would be awesome. It'd be great theater. Correct. I'm not rooting against SMU. I'm just saying it'd be great theater.
Essentially, what everybody needs to know is that SMU controls their destiny in the West, and until somebody beats SMU, none of the other West Division scenarios matter.
All right, so if I have this right, still with a possibility of making it to the American Conference Championship game, we have SMU, Houston, Tulane, Memphis, UCF, Temple, Cincinnati. Do I got that right?
And how fun is this? This is what the month of November is all about.
No question.
Playoff football.
Yep, playoff football and turkey.
I knew Thanksgiving
and
would get
stuffing.
the best of you.
Right.
All right.
And mashed potatoes. I got to stop.
Food and football.
Yeah.
Two of Andy's favorite things.
Sure.
But hey, I can't blame you. 2 of my favorite things, too.
Well,
so
there you go. Except you're petite and I'm a fat guy. People would expect it from me, not from you.
All right, well, we're going to be back here with you Wednesday night as we look ahead to a full slate of games across the American in Week 12. A lot to be decided in terms of the conference championship as we head into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. On behalf of Andy Gresh, I'm Haley Owen. We'll see you back here Wednesday night.